to survive unless we get a little crazy.
Hi, my name is Michael Waitze from Michael Talks Tech.
Hi, Eric Rosenkranz, host of Strategy Asia.
So Eric, what's your number 3 for the year?
Number 3, Bitcoin.
Why Bitcoin?
Well, I don't know whether...
Is it Bitcoin or blockchain?
No, Bitcoin.
Bitcoin
But I don't
itself.
know whether Bitcoin is going to be a success, whether it's going to be a failure, whether it's used for drugs or not. But the concept, think of the big idea. It's electronic money that does not owe itself to any country. It's not America or China or Thailand deciding what to do with their currency.
I get it.
It's just out there. I think that's the future. I think that's a big idea.
So I think it's a huge idea. But here's what I think is more important. I think the blockchain is more important. Because I think the Bitcoin is currency, sure. You need currencies to do trade. I completely get that, right? And it's going to affect peer-to-peer lending and maybe crowdsourcing and all this other stuff. But I think the bigger thing to do with Bitcoin is the underlying technology, which is the blockchain. We can spend hours going back and forth on this, but I think you're right. I think there's a lot to talk about actually as it relates to how countries matter less and less, and how Bitcoin is just the beginning of that.
But Michael, that's the difference between you and me, and I'm not saying right or wrong or who's better. You're a tech guy.
Yeah.
What fascinates you is the underlying technology.
Absolutely.
I'm a consumer guy.
Right.
What fascinates me is the impact on the consumer.
On the consumer, exactly.
Right? And to me, the consumer doesn't care what the underlying technology is. The consumer wants to have this universal currency.
Right, but watch this, and this is the way I like to explain the blockchain and technology that happens in the background, right? Think about, everybody wants a television set. Let's call it the 60s or the 70s.
And nobody cares
and nobody
what
gives,
goes on
but
behind
nobody
that.
cares
Yeah.
how those waves get to the antenna. But I think that's the bigger... I think that's the bigger discovery. So that's where you and I
guy, right?
That's
to
where
a
you and I
tech
differ.
guy, that's the bigger discovery. To the consumer, they don't care.
They don't care. They just, as long as it goes on.
And that's
and they
why
get their
the
thing, and
world
that's the
needs
Bitcoin
both
thing.
tech guys and
I'm
consumer
not sure
guys.
anybody
What's your
needs-
number 3?
I'm not sure anybody needs me.
What's your number 3?
So my number 3 is the funding of e-commerce, and I should give full disclosure. I'm a small investor in this company. Why is it significant? To me, it's significant because logistics and warehousing and last mile delivery in Southeast Asia is a pain point for every type of e-commerce. This will be on your consumer side. And they've built a company that now disintermediates that and tries to fix that, competing with Sing Post. They just took a 20% investment from DKSH. It's a 150-year-old Swiss company. They do $10 billion of brand business. 70-something% of that is done in Southeast Asia.
But Michael, your number 3, e-commerce, doesn't that prove the point of my number 3, Bitcoin? You can't really have successful e-commerce in Southeast Asia until you have a universal currency.
Yeah, and it's funny. So I look at this from 2 perspectives, right? I'm so interested in technology, but I'm also interested in the finance side and the funding side. And this is interesting to me because a Swiss company which operates in Southeast Asia offline has made a decision to invest in one of the premier e-commerce facilitation companies in Southeast Asia, and it was all over the news. They did a Series A back in June of last year of a decent amount of money. They took a bridge round of $5 million in the middle of this year, and then they just closed an undisclosed amount, but at least 8 figures of investment for 20% of the company. This is really big news because of what it does to the entire ecosystem. That's why it's important to me. Sure, the consumer side I get, and even the tech side I understand, but that's not the point of this, at least for my number 3. The point is someone made an investment, a big investment in a big company, and that's really significant to me.
All right, let me tell you a story.
Go for it.
Maybe 25 years ago,
Okay.
I'm working in Europe. I'm driving down the street in Dusseldorf, Germany.
Okay.
Now, remember, 25 years ago, cell phones were just coming into use. They were extremely expensive, they were big things, and only rich people had them.
Yeah, and when you carried one, you looked like an idiot. because
Exactly.
It was so big.
And we would make fun of
Everybody
people,
who had
right?
one, you'd be like,
oh,
"That
look at
guy's
this
a jerk."
guy, yeah, he looks stupid. And we all thought it was going to be some niche specialist
car
thing.
phone. It was the car phone. Yeah,
It was a car. It started
phones,
as the car phone, right?
Yep.
So anyway, I'm driving down the street in Dusseldorf one day, and I'm stuck behind a garbage truck.
Okay.
And the guy comes out, and he's this big burly garbage man, and he's wearing this blue jumpsuit, right? And he's throwing the garbage around, and then suddenly he stops, goes like this, goes into his pocket, and takes out his cell phone and starts talking.
How big was it?
Not big. It was one of the new Nokias.
Nokia's, or
Okay.
maybe the Motorola D-Tac or
And
D-Tac.
I said to myself, bingo. This isn't a rich toy.
No.
This is a garbage man. What's that? His wife's calling him, asking him to bring bread home.
Right.
His daughter's calling him, saying what she did in school today.
Right.
This is a real thing.
This is the future. Right?
Okay, and to me, it was a sea change in my mind.
For sure.
Okay, my number 2. You and I were maybe higher income. We live in cities. We all have smartphones. All of our friends have smartphones.
Right.
90% of the people in Southeast Asia still live in rural farming villages.
Yep.
They don't have smartphones.
Right.
To me, that's the big thing that's going to happen next is cheap smartphones.
Yeah, I mean, the access to smartphones in Southeast Asia in particular is so important. If you look, again, from wearing the tech hat, which I know you don't like, but wearing the tech hat, the ability to carry the internet in your pocket with you is really significant. We're filming here today at a place called Kaidi, right? The CEO of Kaidi periodically goes out to the marketplaces in Thailand and asks survey questions to understand what type of goods people are going to use and how they use his technology. So he goes up to a guy in his 40s and says, do you use the internet? No, I don't. Do you have a smartphone? Absolutely. He said, do you use Facebook? Everybody uses Facebook, which is this man's answer, but you don't use the internet. Absolutely not. Do you search for things on Google? Of course, but no internet, yeah? No. This is not the internet to them, but this is all their connectivity. There's going to be a massive sea change. I already know that mobile phone penetration, even smartphone penetration in Thailand is relatively high. It is in Southeast Asia as well. It's going to get even higher.
But it's not smartphone is what I'm saying. It's mobile phone. They're what they call feature phones.
But it's moving. It's already moving.
Exactly.
It's already moving.
Because an iPhone costs, what, $700?
Well, here it's different, right? It's different in every country, and because in most of these countries everything's prepaid as well, you can actually get a phone. A lot of people actually borrow money to buy the phone for a bunch of different reasons and then do prepaid. Something like 95% of phone calls in Thailand are prepaid. But I don't disagree with you.
But the phones are still expensive. They
Very,
still
very,
cost $700.
So you're going to be able to get an Android
So when
or
the
good phone.
Chinese start bringing in the $100 smartphones,
the Xiaomi phones and all these other phones that are coming
that's what's going to revolutionize things. And you know what? We have to stop calling these things phones.
No,
they're not phones.
They're
When was
cameras.
the last
They're
time?
cameras before they're phones.
They're computers.
For sure.
They're computers in your pocket.
But you can't get out of people's heads the fact that it's a phone. Because it's replaced the thing they used to have in their hand, which was a phone.
Yeah, but not in the farming villages. They never had the phone to begin with.
The other thing is they never had a computer as well.
Exactly.
So this is their first access to real-time data.
Whatever we call it, whether it's a phone, a camera, or a computer, to me the future is getting that price point down under $100 to be able to put it into the villages so that people can then communicate. And then you're going to destroy banks.
Oh, yeah,
Because
we'll do that.
Because it's all going to be payment.
But look what's happening in Africa.
Yeah.
It's a completely unbanked society. All the banking takes place here. And micro-lending as well. So micro-banking takes place here. You can move minute amounts of money.
I've got a great story about Africa that's got nothing to do with what we're talking about, but I'm going to tell it anyway.
Tell me anyway.
I was talking to the head of Pepsi from Central Africa. Okay. And he said to me, Eric, who is my biggest competitor? Who's the biggest competitor of Pepsi in Central Africa?
I'm not going to say Coke, but
well, Coke is.
It should be though.
And the answer was the prepaid phone card.
Exactly.
Because
that's where
if
they'll spend the
somebody
money.
had $1,
Right.
or 50 cents, their
Whatever.
choice is: do I buy a Pepsi or do I put money on my phone?
Yeah.
That's his biggest competitor.
And you cannot bank with the little Pepsi can.
Yeah.
I mean, as silly as that seems.
So anyway, that's my number 2.
Okay, so my number 2 is another financial deal, which I think is really important. There's a lot of talk out of Silicon Valley that they have no visibility on what's going on in Southeast Asia, which is one of the things that we want to give them. Anyway, the iProperty Group, which was started by Patrick Grove in 2007, so 8 years ago, was just sold to News Corp, a subsidiary of News Corp called the REA Group, for $500 million. That's a large amount of money for a tech company in Southeast Asia. And it's a classified thing for real estate. I think it's a massive deal because it highlights the fact that big financial deals can take place out here. It raises the possible valuation for other startup companies in Southeast Asia, and it gives everybody an idea about what a real big exit looks like. I think it's really important, and that happened recently.
I have nothing to say about that.
Unbelievable. So what's your number 1 for this year?
All right, Michael, I'm going to say one word, but I don't want you to...
Please don't make it Madonna.
I don't want you to answer until I kind of
Say
blah,
the other,
blah.
Say the other words
Say the other
afterwards.
words.
So it's more than one word.
All right.
Just so I know.
So the one word is Uber.
Okay.
Okay. But that by itself is not the big ideal. Okay.
I really want to say something.
All right.
No,
No,
go ahead.
You can't.
No, go
okay.
ahead.
So what does Uber do? It matches consumer demand with a consumer supply. Right? I need a taxi. I can't find one. It's raining. It's 5 o'clock in the afternoon. I go into Uber. I see that there's a guy driving down the street. He's just his own car. He's not affiliated with a company. He can pick me up and take me somewhere. Okay. Now build that to Airbnb. Okay. I want a room.
Same.
I don't want to stay in a hotel. Some guy's got a room. We match each other. Okay. Now take it to the next level. I need a plumber. I don't know if the service exists yet.
It does.
I need a plumber
started.
or an electrician.
Yep.
Okay, I go on. There's some plumber. He doesn't work for a company, but he knows how to do it. We match. To me, the future is with our computer in our pocket, matching consumer demand with consumer supply.
I don't disagree with you at all. And it's the beautiful thing for me for watching these companies get built is that in almost every vertical and in almost any industry, it's possible to do that. We're actually at a sea change in the way not just companies are being built, but where employment is getting done as well. Right? Because if you think about it, before a plumber had to work at a plumbing shop, you know, a babysitter had to work for a babysitter service. All of these types of services, right, had to have their own sort of special place. Now you just have it on your phone. And if I need someone to provide service for me, just like Uber, there's a whole bunch of people close to me, so it's location-based. It's automatic. I press a button. They say yes. They come over and give me service. I never have to exchange money either. If you've been in an Uber, which I'm sure you have, it almost feels like you're not paying for it.
Yeah. Yeah, you're in a friend's car.
You get into your friend's car.
And you get out of the car, and then you get a little email that says this is what you paid.
And
I think it's brilliant.
It feels like a reasonable price.
Yeah.
And it disintermediates the whole necessity to have like big companies. And people don't want to work at big companies anymore. Seriously, like people don't want to work in a place where there are more than 100 people. They don't want to. And to get back to your Airbnb and to your Uber example, these are companies that make billions of dollars a year in revenue or hundreds of millions of dollars. They have no inventory, so they take no risk. This is fascinating to me.
And I don't know how many people they have, but we were talking to a gentleman earlier today who reminded me that Craigslist in the U.S., which is a gajillion-dollar company, has got 48 employees.
48 employees and $380 million of revenue.
Yeah. So the future can also be extremely profitable without a lot of people.
Yeah, but it also frees up plenty of people to be more creative and to be more innovative than they ever could before. Because if you're waking up at 6 o'clock in the morning, going to a job at 7:30, working there until 7 o'clock at night, there's not a lot of time for innovation.
Yeah. And I think the other thing these companies like Uber and Airbnb do is they cause the existing companies in their fields to challenge their own business models.
Hopefully. That's a maybe, though, in my mind. It's
a
maybe. Because Hilton's not going to go, what they could do, and they should do, because they have all these resources, if you're a hotel company, why not just go buy an apartment block? You're going to build a hotel anyway, and then just Airbnb the whole thing.
Okay, but take Bangkok, for example. Not a single taxi cab in Bangkok has a seatbelt, and they won't give you a receipt. If you're a businessman, you cannot get a receipt from a taxi.
Yeah,
now, Uber will give you seatbelts and will give you receipts. Now, will that cause the taxi companies to start changing their business model?
Let's be fair, though.
I don't know.
Let's be fair. GrabTaxi is a multi-billion-dollar company, very well funded, and regional as well. And they're highly competitive with Uber.
Yeah, okay.
So that market's already changing. There's Easy Taxi as well, which is funded by Rocket Internet. They're competing directly with GrabTaxi. There's Ola in India.
Yeah, but I'm talking about the existing companies, like in Singapore, ComfortDelGro. You know,
yeah, but remember, ComfortDelGro actually tried to do their own app. It didn't work so well, so they had to.
The app didn't work, but now we're only talking. How long has Uber been in Singapore? 1 year, maybe.
Maybe. Let's call it 2. Whatever. Doesn't matter.
Okay, it takes longer than that for big organizations to adapt their business plans. Talk to me in 10 years. I'll bet you Comfort will have changed.
Well, they're either have to or they won't exist.
Exactly. What's your number one, Michael?
So my number one is a little bit self-serving. My number one, the biggest thing that happened in the tech space in Southeast Asia this year is Metaliq Media.
Oh, okay. But your number 3 was A-Commerce, which was a company you invested in. So, okay, it's all right. You can use this program to sell your stuff.
No, I'm not.
Tell us about Metaliq Media.
I think it's important because I think there needs to be a systematic video way to promote what's going on in Southeast Asia. As a matter of fact, it's not self-serving at all. What we really want to do is, and I think it's important because we've asked people to do this for us and they haven't done it. Okay? So what we wanted to do is we wanted to go out and show people that it was possible to tell stories using video about what's going on in Southeast Asia. And I think it's really significant. And like you said, we'll know in 10 years if it really is. I think we both believe it is.
Well, I hope Metaliq Media will be successful just in 1 year or so.
I agree.
Anyway, I'm Eric Rosenkranz. I'm the host of Strategy Asia, brought to you by Metaliq Media.
I'm Michael Waitze from Michael Talks Tech.
But we're never gonna survive unless we get a little crazy.